Thank you and greetings to all. Well, friends, this is a very special dialogue session. We have had 2 days of very complex topics covered by many of you. The diversity of the topics, lot on innovations which have come up. It was an excellent conference. And now I think we should go more in a relaxing mode as we are coming close to the conference. We will have a very informal, very focused dialogue uh, with the panelists. And let me say here, for the benefit of audience, I have a pleasure to have a very high profile panelist. It is Afro-Asian panelist, very high profile. And as we move ahead, you will come to know some of whom you have just listened on different topics. Uh, Now, I don't believe in reading the CVs of the panelists here, and I will just start the discussion to save time. I know we already have one player out because he had to travel, Dr. Pandya, and another player, Dr. Yemi, it was about to be out, and I just caught him in the chat box and made him wait. And the complexity of panelists, because Max Olupot, who managed to get a flight and reach for this panel session. So we have all kinds of panelists, high profile, very busy, and we have to respect the time and we have to respect their knowledge. With this brief background, I would like to say to all the panelists, permit me to start with Dr. Yemi Akinbamijo from FARA. As you all know, he gave a very nice overview of FARA and the concept of the digital twins, which was wonderful. Now, I will start with Yemi and I will have all the questions for Yemi so that he doesn't get caught up in the traffic which he was scared of and was about to leave. This is with the permission of all the panelists. Yemi, to begin with, let me congratulate you for really carrying forward FARA forward in such a nice way and being a voice in Africa for what is the best for Africa in terms of agriculture, research, innovation, and development, and also in terms of how we do global partnership, as we have observed recently with your forceful interventions at many high-level platforms. I would like to know from you in very simple way, what do you feel is the key thing which Africa still needs to work more for promotion of agri-food system innovation? Is it the capacity building we all talk about? Is it the knowledge management? Is it the policy interface? Is it the partnership? Is it funding? So what is the key that Africa needs right now? Yemi, over to you.
Oh, thank you very much, Ravi. A great pleasure to be able to connect with you. And good morning out of Accra, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be joining this wonderful session. Well, you have touched a very important subject, Ravi. What is it that is keeping Africa out of food security? This was a question I was actually deliberating with another high-level individual only yesterday. And I was saying to her that we've got capacity, we've got the natural resources, we've got knowledge, we've got resources, financial resources, but things do not seem to gel. So for me, it is becoming important that we probably do not have the right policies to bring together all of these resources and make them initiate or catalyze the process of development. Well, if you know how Africa has been endowed and set up and positioned in many ways, We're known to be the continent with the highest youth bulge. Over 60% of the arable land is on the continent. 80% of the global freshwater is there. So it's just endless, but yet this continent is food insecure. So, and when you look at the inputs of research, the global body, the CGIAR, spends more than 60% of their resources in Africa over the last 50 years. And yet, the transformation agenda has been on the table for more than 20 years, and we have not been transformed. So it's not for lack of knowledge, it's not for lack of money, it's not for lack of people, it's not lack of capacity. It simply means that we didn't get the spirit, the policy. And I think this is where we need to hold the leadership and the government accountable. I mean, we have the frames, we have the SDG 2030, we have the STISA 2024, we have Agenda 2063, we have Malabo. Malabo is going to be 10 years next year. But have we shifted the needle since 2013, since 2014 rather? Has the needle shifted? And I don't think so. But we are spending money. Donors are putting money. Scientists are graduating. I mean, university is graduating degree holders, postgraduates, we're doing everything, but yet the plates are empty. The kitchen is empty. The pantry is empty. So we have a very, very difficult scenario. We need to look beyond the laboratories. We need to look beyond the benches and look more into the policy dimension and hold the leadership accountable.
Thank you, Yemi. Thank you so much for a very crisp response in this dialogue session. And I think I will not get back to you again because in case you want to leave, since you have a paucity of time, but I really appreciate you for analyzing and anatomizing the actual reasons of what is the reason in Africa that food security issues are still an issue which is to be worked at. Now, taking this cue from Yemi, I will like to get back to Mr. Njongenhle Nyoni from FANRPAN because Yemi highlighted the importance of the missing policy interface and the ownership in Africa, which is actually the root cause of the problem. And Mr. Njongenhle, since you come from Food, Agriculture, Natural Resource Policy Analysis Network, I would like to have your views on it. How do you look at this? What Yemi has said. He has left, so you are free to respond anyway now.
Yeah.
Be brief. Kindly be brief, please.
I'll try to be brief. I think Yemi covered a lot of ground there. So my name is Njongenhle Nyoni. Thanks for trying. Nyoni is my last name. From FANRPAN, we are a policy analysis network, and we focus on policy research, policy analysis, policy advocacy. And one of the key focus areas is how the translation of evidence into policy options. So empirical evidence has to filter into decision-making in terms of policies. So it's interesting that Yemi brings it up. And one of the challenges that we have with the policy development processes is the capacity or the ability to engage in policy development processes. So part of what we do and support with the FANRPAN is building the capacity of state and non-state actors in the policy development processes. That evidence that Yemi is talking about, the investments that have been made, they have to be channeled in a way, and policy creates that enabling environment, and the filtering, the agenda for the policy has to be informed by the evidence that has been generated. And so there's a disconnect in terms of what we are creating, trying to create that enabling environment and the evidence that is being generated. And the innovations that we discuss here, they're very critical, very important. But without the other players, the beneficiaries that can demand for the innovation to be made available by the bureaucrats, the state actors, we can have that pull factor, that demand factor coming from the beneficiaries, and that will inform the policy development processes as well. We need to have engagements put clearly the evidence that is generated, translated in a way that presents those options for the policymaker to actually then start creating that enabling environment. And then if we have all the stakeholders coming together, engaging, having that dialogue, then it helps us to have policies that are representative of what we want and that actually create that enabling environment for us to be prosperous, for us to transform our agriculture sector and become food sector. That's right.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Njongenhle, for really giving an extension of the reply of Yemi, which makes it more clear now. And I will get back to you later. I would like to move on now to Mr. Emmanuel Njukwe, Dr. Emmanuel Njukwe, who gave an excellent presentation of Western Central Africa Council for Agriculture Research and Development, what they are doing and all. I would like to ask you, after listening Yemi and listening Njongenhle, Dr. Emmanuel, just let me know, in Western Central Africa, do you fully agree with them? Secondly, because your presentation was a remarkable presentation, I found, which gave an impression that things are moving in the very right direction. Over to you, Dr. Emmanuel.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ravi and others. I agree with the earlier presenters about the issue of policy. But prior to that, Africa is endowed with a lot of resources, be it natural, be it human, and all these what is supposed to have contributed to achieving food security and nutrition, including income. But I will also include or add that we need a concerted effort, good coordination, synergy amongst initiatives that are ongoing in Africa. Most of the challenges we have in Africa, they are ongoing initiatives to address those challenges, but I think they need better coordination and synergy. The information they pass on to the end users, at times they differ. Personally, I've worked with farmers, and some farmers, they do tell us that the institutions that we lead are more vulnerable than the people we think they are vulnerable, because the information we pass are so distorted, not coordinated. And it will be an issue like the 1CG that is coming up. I think it is an approach where they will want to harmonize their strategy, harmonize their technology, harmonize innovations, so that the technology they take to farmers should be a technology that is a one-stop shop, that all the institutes abide to it. That is one of the things I believe in. Then the other issue is we've been struggling and looking at regional challenges, forgetting that some of the challenges are country-specific. The needs and capacity vary from country to country and by region. So we might be proposing to resolve a challenge which is a regional challenge, but some countries has capacities that they can overcome the problems that we think are major. For instance, we had introduced innovations to increase the capacity and availability of healthy planting materials to farmers. In some countries, they have the infrastructure already in place. In other countries, the infrastructures are lacking. So once you introduce technologies in countries where those infrastructure are not available and the capacity is not ready, then you keep rotating without making impact. So I think assessing each country's needs and challenges before any other intervention should be a priority in support with the policy domain that they have just mentioned. As I mentioned, the agroecology, they vary, the capacity differ, the needs differ. So we need to have an in-depth needs assessment so we know what are the different challenges and needs we are addressing before focusing on interventions, and also do a lot of coordination and synergy for ongoing initiatives and projects that are dotted everywhere in Africa. Thank you very much, Ravi.
Thank you, Dr. Emmanuel Njukwe. What I liked in your response was on the not having the policy, but it's a question of implementation, question of coordination, question of need assessment of capacities and the needs on the ground. Thank you so much. Let me now pass on to Dr. Dao Thi Han, who is a Vice Director of Vietnam Academy of Agriculture Sciences. Dr. Dao, we have seen Vietnam coming up in a big way. Vietnam is a bubbling economy in Asia, and we are working with you from APAARI on many projects. I would like to know from you, more specifically, what Vietnam needs right now to increase the speed of its growth. You are growing well. How to get a better momentum?
Thank you, Dr. Ravi, for the question. And I think that Vietnam, we see that we have some rapid growth, saying in the last 10 years, and also including agricultural productivities. But now we are facing several problems of sustainability. Such as in related to fast agricultural development. So I'd like to also to share with African friends that now in the next 10 years, it's a new strategy. Vietnam is we look for more for sustainability of the food system and agroecology transformation rather than focusing on the growth of the productivities, because our natural resources, soil, water is polluted with excess utilization of chemical fertilizer and insecticides. Also, the biodiversity is reducing due to the monoculture. So it is very difficult to adapt with climate change. And also in Vietnam, we use high chemical, so the mitigation, the emission of greenhouse gas is also very high. So we also focus on the reducing greenhouse gas from agricultural sector in the next 10 years. So we also now we need the research collaboration with CGIAR, with CIRAD from France, with different organizations to also to focus the research on the agroecology transition, like African friend already mentioned. So for food security experience and policy, I think that we can share. We are ready to share the experience with African country, because in Vietnam we also established a kind of Vietnam Africa economic development coalition in order to share the experience and to connect research and private sector from both continents, Vietnam and Africa. So I think that we look for more for sustainability in the next 10 years, rather focusing in the fast growing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dao, for being so focused in your response. Sustainability for you is the answer. And I appreciate the way you talked about Vietnam Africa coalition for sharing your lessons learned and best practices and all. I think that is a good example of moving forward in this era of globalization. Thank you. Now let me come to Dr. Max Olupot. Max is a very important person. Not only he represents African Forum for Agriculture Advisory Services, but he is chairing the Tropical Agriculture Platform at FAO. And Max brings with him a lot of experience on the ground and working with the EU projects. Max, my direct question to you is, it will not be the same I am asking others. So my question to you will be, being at the helm of the Tropical Agriculture Platform at a global level, what do you see about getting the outputs and outcomes of the Tropical Agriculture Platform Action Plan reaching to developing and least developed countries? What efforts are being done and how you look at it very objectively in terms of establishing an agriculture innovation system? Over to you, Max. You are on mute. Max, you are on mute.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm sorry for, first of all, my environment that I had to maneuver, and I feel that I should be in this very important meeting. As already introduced, and from the Tropical Agriculture Platform to AFAAS and to the Field School Hub, I think if I focus to the question, but by saying, first of all, in all that we are doing with the farmers, we must recognize that the next generation of the rural women and men who are farmers will need different capacities from the current generation. This is undeniable because we are moving towards a dynamic system, a system which calls upon the new kind of capacities. I totally agree with the Dr. Yemi and all the presenters about the present our availability of capacity. However, this capacity must continue to evolve. This capacity must therefore continue to tweak in terms of the dynamics which is happening in agriculture. Now, the Tropical Agriculture Platform, which is a G20 initiative, has taken very bold steps in terms of capacity development and ensuring that we have the tools which can help in terms of developing capacity at organizational level, at the system level, individual levels. And if we get back to the question about the environment, the issues of agriculture generally, even our leaders actually do need this capacity, because when you have the policy, when you are developing the policy, you do it nicely. But in Africa, again, or globally, I have found that the implementation of the policies is the critical thing. Now, what do we do from the point of TAP, for example? We have these concepts that I thought that they were basically for the technical people, the operational. But of recent, I noticed that we needed these concepts to trigger leadership to have a different thinking, a system kind of thinking, where we are talking about navigating complexities, collaboration. You know, one country cannot do things alone. One organization cannot do things alone. We need to collaborate. And from where TAP, where innovation systems is standing, we want to encourage collaboration. If we have to deliver the agriculture innovation system, if we have to deliver sustainable food system in Africa, in the world, if we are talking about the food systems, you know, the world coming together is a collaborative angle. And again, we are really guided by the fundamental principles of people, issues of planet, and issues of prosperity. And if you have to do this, you have to go through the system of the innovation, agriculture innovation systems approach. That is where you can always collectively have resources, the resources that can be in Africa, complemented with the resources from Europe, complemented with the resources from Asia. And if we bring all these global resources together, then we can be able to talk about a true food systems agenda. And all this is through working together in collaboration. So, Ravi, I think this conversation is very important, and we need to bring the world as a global village where we have technologies from Asia crossing to Africa freely, because I have seen the rice which is in Africa is from Asia. And if we encourage that spirit of brotherhood across the globe, then we can be able to transform the livelihoods of the farmers, our own livelihood. Policy alone cannot do that. You can have all the enabling policies, but you need that mindset change where our leaders will start recognizing each other as a player who is critical in changing the food systems agenda. Thank you very much, Ravi.
Thank you, Max. I really appreciate your very comprehensive response. And in the interest of time, I will ask a very simple question to all of you, but please respond in 30 seconds, because I know the organizers have to close and we are falling short of time. I will start with Dr. Dao Tihan from VAAS. Dr. Dao, what do you feel IAIC should do more in future, this international conference of this agriculture innovation we are having, which is being organized by IAAS in partnership with Bordeaux University and Supagro? What these platforms should do more?
I think that yes, the initiative of IAIC to the association is very interesting, because now facing a lot of new challenge for agriculture and food system in the next decade. The international exchange of experience, research results, and collaborative network is very interesting. So I think that besides the publication up to now that I know, and also the international workshop, we can think maybe through the association we can connect the different bilateral, more concrete partnership between the members. Maybe it's better. Maybe you can have bilateral, trilateral, etc. with Taiwan and France. I think that this kind of, and we can think also maybe why not through the association activities we can develop more concrete project. For example, research project with a multi partnership. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dao. And I think you have invited France and Taiwan to visit Vietnam now to see how they can collaborate more, apart from internal collaboration. I think they are hearing you, and they will really respect your invitation. Yes, Dr. Njongenhle Nyoni. Now, we discussed a lot on the policy side. So in this IAIC, do you feel we have discussed enough on policies? Should we dwell upon more? How we should deal it in future on the IAIC platform?
So we need to discuss more on policy because policy is really complex, but it's good to have the policy angle in our discussions now. One of the aspects that we should look into in future is creating space for the policymaker to be part of the conversation, to share perspectives on the challenges and the gaps that are there, because the bulk of the participants here are the innovators, the ones that are responsible for coming up with innovation. But there are other value chain actors that allow or facilitate the innovation to get to the beneficiary. And that leads me to the other part, which is the beneficiaries themselves. We need the farmers to speak in this platform, to share perspectives on what is it that is not going well with the great innovations that are coming up. Where is the gap? Where is the capacity? Where are the capacity issues? So that we are able to fine-tune the way our approaches. Max was talking about an evolving system where the capacities are changing as well. So where is the gap there? So we need to balance that up by bringing the stakeholders, effectively engaging everyone here. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Njongenhle. That's an excellent response. I think we have to bring farmers on a panel discussion to challenge you guys. And I think things will be more clear then in terms of frankly moving forward collectively. So Dr. Emmanuel Njukwe, do you feel that such a platform should be existing in Africa, or you should be co-organizing something of innovation conference in Africa to bring more awareness? How do you look at this?
Yeah, you know, things have now resolved to a global village, irrespective of the continent where you belong. There are tools and technologies that can shift innovations from one continent to the other. I will propose we have a system where there is a digital platform to showcase technology, and we know the world is evolving and we are moving towards mechanization. If in Asia, mechanization has actually improved, so if some of the technologies in Asia or mechanization can be showcased in a digital platform and adapted to African content, then I think we can easily adopt that. Then other issue I will propose we, as my colleague rightly mentioned, to invite some farmers to either give us success story or their needs and challenges. What are the critical needs that they think we should be addressing to meet or to change their livelihood? I appreciate the exchange and the caliber of the presenters and the facilitators, the coordination. We should replicate this, but I'll propose we have a platform to share knowledge and to share technology. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Emmanuel, for a very positive and a very forward-looking response. Yeah, Max, I give the last word to you. What do you feel like how the tropical agriculture platform should be showcased? Should they have use such platforms, or how the agriculture advisory service should be coming forward much more and more on such digital platform? Over to you, Max. It seems Max has lost connectivity. Max, are you there? No. So anyway, we have got some very nice input. In the interest of time, I will like to stop the discussion by thanking each of the panelists, very wise people, very good pertinent responses we got. And I hope we continue such discussions, and I hope the organizers have listened to them carefully and may see that how best they can organize the IAIC 2023 in future. But we definitely got a very good glimpse of Africa especially, and a bit on Asia, courtesy Dr. Dow. We got a good glimpse of what is ailing, where are the promises, and how we can move forward. With this, thank you all once again. I'll stop here in the interest of time. Over to you, Stephanie.